Intro. Peace doesn't come from silence. There's a quiet illusion growing inside many of us that if things around us are calm enough, orderly enough, perfect enough, then peace will automatically appear. That if we just get a few days off, see some nice numbers in our bank account, stay in a room with no noise, no duties, no one bothering us, then the chaos in our minds will fade away. But if you've ever had all of that and still felt a strange emptiness inside, you already understand something vital. Real peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from a deeper place, something the Stoics called your inner structure. And if that structure is weak, it doesn't matter how silent the world is. You'll still feel like you're living in the middle of a nameless storm. You can be sitting alone in a quiet room, yet your mind is screaming. No calls, no complaints, no pressure. Yet one message, one old sentence, one vague memory can still make your chest ache because surface peace can't seal the silent cracks within. And those cracks, they don't appear all at once. They don't crash into your life like a collapsing building. They start small. One emotion you shoved aside, one comment you never responded to but carried with you anyway. One moment of silence when you should have spoken up. Slowly, those things don't disappear. They turn inward, corroding your foundation, piece by piece. One day you find yourself quick to anger, quick to fatigue, quick to give up, and you can't even trace it back to where it began. But here's a truth few people talk about. You can rebuild that inner structure. Peace isn't a gift someone gives you. It's something you forge, day by day, choice by choice, in how you respond to this world. Not through glossy self-help books, not through expensive retreats. You don't need to escape to mountaintops or sink into the ocean's depths. All you need is to relearn how to stand firm in this world, the Stoic way. No noise, no show, no glitter. Just quiet, powerful habits that reshape your inner world. That's why you're here, to discover the 10 Stoic habits for living. Not abstract theories, but concrete actions you can practice in modern life. Habits that will rebuild your mental fences, emotional pillars, spiritual foundations, so when the world shakes again, you don't get swept away. You stay grounded like a mountain, not because you feel nothing, but because you've learned not to be toppled. And that journey starts, not with a loud battle cry, but with one quiet decision. I choose peace. I am Stoic. Habit 1. Before you react, breathe. Picture this familiar scene. You're on your way to work. Traffic is jammed. Horns are blaring. The clock on your dashboard moves by the minute, but your car doesn't move an inch. Your phone won't stop vibrating. Messages from the team chat, unanswered emails, a deadline breathing down your neck. You're trying to stay calm, and suddenly, out of nowhere, a car cuts you off mercilessly. And as if to punch through your last ounce of patience, the driver honks at you, like you're the one who messed up. In that split second, your logic disappears. You want to scream, to strike back, to do something that feels deserved for the disrespect. The emotions surge like dry kindling catching fire, fast, hot, and totally out of control. That is the moment where most of us react instead of choose. And that is exactly where a Stoic does something different. Not because they don't feel anger, but because they don't let anger decide for them. In every situation, a Stoic chooses something simple, but powerful. They breathe. Why breathing? Because your breath is the one thing you can control, even when everything else is beyond your reach. In a chaotic world, your breath is the anchor that keeps you from drifting. Deep breathing isn't some emotional hack. It's a silent declaration. I am not ruled by what happens outside me. I still hold the reins to myself. Just like Epictetus once said, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgment about them. That car, that driver, they're just events. It's your reaction that turns them into suffering. You can't control someone else's behavior, but you can control your response. And you begin that with one simple act. Pause. Take a deep breath. Hold it for a few seconds. Then exhale slowly. In that moment, you reclaim the space between stimulus and response. The space Viktor Frankl once called the refuge of freedom. With every breath, you're not just calming your nerves. You're stepping out of the victim's role and stepping back into the leader of your own life. And here is your first exercise on the Stoic path. Anytime you feel the urge to react to a rude comment, a frustrating situation, something that didn't go your way, pause. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to do anything. Just breathe. That is when you forge your invisible shield, a shield protecting you from your own instincts. Because only the weak react immediately. The strong are the ones who know how to stop. And sometimes one well-timed breath can change your entire day. Habit 2. Observe, don't absorb. Have you ever found yourself in this situation? A normal conversation, nothing special. But then someone says something, not overly harsh, not exactly insulting, just a passing remark. Maybe it was slightly tactless. Maybe it was just their tone, or the way they looked at you for half a second. Yet that one sentence follows you the entire day. It replays in your head like a recording on loop. You try to brush it off, act normal, keep working, but your mind keeps drifting back to that moment as if something was left unresolved, unspoken, unsettled. And that tiny thing becomes a slow, invisible cut, not deep right away, but quietly lingering. Why? Because you didn't just hear that comment. You absorbed it. You let it in. You allowed it to walk straight into your mind, like an uninvited guest who barges in, makes a mess, and speaks up every time you try to be still. But here's the most important part. You opened the door. This is exactly what the Stoics always warned against. Don't let what's outside walk straight into your inner world. Your mind is a house, and you are the doorkeeper. Epictetus once said, "It's not other people's words that hurt us. It's we who grant them the power to do so." That statement isn't cold. It's a reminder of personal responsibility and inner freedom. You can't control what people say, but you can decide what's allowed to stay in your mind. Think of it this way. If a stranger tried to enter your home, shoes caked in mud, would you let them in? Of course not. So why do we let clumsy words, careless remarks, and toxic attitudes stroll right into our brain, wander around, and take up space? Not everyone who knocks deserves to be invited in. And here's how a Stoic handles it. They observe, but they don't absorb. When they hear something that triggers emotion, instead of reacting or suppressing it, they quietly ask, "What belief is this touching in me? Do you believe what they said is true? Do you believe you need to be understood to have worth? Are you carrying an old wound? And did that comment just happen to hit the same spot?" When you see the story behind your emotional reaction, you step outside of it. You're no longer the one who's wounded. You become the one observing the wound. And in that distance, you find freedom. The freedom not to absorb, the freedom to keep your mind clean, the freedom to say, "No strangers allowed," with dirty shoes inside this house. Keep practicing this habit, and you'll begin to realize peace doesn't come from what others say. It comes from how well you guard the door to your own mind. Habit 3. Don't get dragged into pointless arguments. Some conversations begin like a thin wisp of smoke, a small misunderstanding, a poorly phrased sentence, a glance that felt off. But just seconds later, that smoke becomes fire. The next sentence is louder than the last. The tone shifts. Words sharpen. Breathing quickens. And suddenly you're no longer speaking to be understood. You're speaking to win. Somewhere along the way, a simple exchange of ideas turned into a full-blown battle of egos. The sad truth is, most arguments we get into don't start because of truth. They start because of threat, a glance at the wrong moment, feedback that came out too blunt, silence that gets misread. The ego feels disrespected, and it wants to strike back. So you jump into the fight, not to understand, but to defend, not to build a bridge, but to raise a wall. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who lived like a philosopher, once said, "Avoid useless quarrels. They lead the soul astray." That's not just moral advice. It's a truth about your life energy. Every time you dive into a pointless argument just to prove you're right, you're not just wasting time. You're losing focus, losing clarity, and most of all, losing your inner peace. Even when you win with logic, win with facts, win by silencing the other person, you still lose something invisible but very real, the clarity of your own mind. That exhaustion you feel after a heated argument, it's no accident. It's the cost of pouring your energy into something unworthy of it. Stoics don't stay silent because they're weak. They stay silent because they're stronger than the need to always be right. They don't have to win every clash because they understand that winning a small argument can sometimes set you back on the larger path, the path of mastering yourself. Silence, when chosen wisely, is how you preserve your energy for things that truly matter. So when someone throws a jab at you, offers a provocative opinion, or just wants to argue for the sake of arguing, pause, ask yourself, if I win this argument, what do I actually win? And if the answer is nothing important, step away with the quiet confidence of someone who understands the true value of inner stillness. Silence isn't weakness, it's clarity. It's not about giving up. It's about refusing to let yourself be dragged around by every challenge. The strong aren't the ones who always get the last word. The strong are the ones who know when to speak and when peace matters more than pride. Habit 4, change your thinking. Not the event. You're not hurt by what happened. You're hurt by the story you tell yourself about what happened. A distant glance makes you feel invisible. A piece of criticism convinces you you're not good enough. Someone walks away, and suddenly you believe you're unworthy. But all of those are just events. The pain, the sadness, the anger. Those are born from the way you interpret them. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was absolutely right, because the human mind is a storytelling machine. It doesn't just record what happens, it rewrites it into a narrative. When someone declines your invitation, your brain doesn't just note they're busy, it starts weaving. They don't respect me. I'm not important enough. I won't invite them next time. And from one small event, you spiral into assumptions, and the negative emotions come not from the truth, but from the story you created. The Stoics teach you not to live like that. They don't tell you to ignore emotions. They teach you to step back, observe them, and rewrite the narrative in your mind. not by changing the event, but by changing the lens through which you see it. Because if you don't take control of the story you're telling yourself, that story will take control of you. Here's a simple but powerful tool. Whenever something hurts you, frustrates you, or angers you, write down what actually happened, exactly as it occurred. No exaggeration, no assumptions. Then write 3 possible interpretations. A neutral one, just the raw event. An optimistic one, a perspective that benefits you. A strategic one, a mindset that helps you grow. For example, you text a friend and they don't reply. Neutral, they haven't responded. Optimistic, maybe they're busy, maybe they're exhausted. Strategic, I can choose to be more proactive with people who value connection and not base my self-worth on someone else's response. When you rewrite the way you think, you shift the way you feel. You're no longer the victim of a negative narrative. You're the author rewriting the script of your own mind. Changing your thinking doesn't erase what happened, but it changes your position in relation to it. You go from the one being hit to the one taking the lead, from reacting to redirecting. And that is the Stoic spirit. You don't need the world to change for you to be at peace. You only need to change the meaning you assign to the world. Habit 5, don't expect others to behave like you. You treat people with kindness and sincerity, and deep down, you hope they'll do the same. You listen when they need to talk. You support them when they're low. You check in when they go quiet. Not because you expect a reward, but because that's just how you live. But then, when it's your turn to need a little care, a simple thank you, a basic act of kindness, what you get is coldness. Their replies are short, distant, or worse, they vanish the moment you need them most. And suddenly you start asking yourself, did I do something wrong? Was I foolish to be kind to people who clearly don't value it? The answer is no, you weren't wrong. You weren't foolish. But you did forget one important truth. Other people don't live by your standards. They don't think like you. They don't feel like you. They don't carry the same values as you. And the more you expect them to act like you, the easier it is to get hurt. That's not your fault. It's the unrealistic expectations you built without realizing. Marcus Aurelius, a man who never let his emotions take the lead, once wrote, "Accept that others act according to their nature, not your desires." It sounds cold, but it's actually a form of freedom. Because the moment you stop trying to reform the world to match your way of being, you feel lighter. You begin to understand, not everyone knows how to respond with care. Not everyone is mature enough to express gratitude, and not everyone has learned to respect kindness. So instead of feeling let down every time someone doesn't act the way you think they should, build a simple but powerful habit. Every time you feel disappointed, hurt, or wonder, why are they like this? Take out a piece of paper and write, "This was my expectation, not their obligation." That one sentence is the antidote to misplaced expectations. It doesn't erase your kindness. It simply prevents you from losing yourself over someone else's response. Because the essence of kindness isn't about getting something back. It's about staying whole in a world that constantly pulls you apart. You don't need to change your values just because someone else doesn't understand them. But you can learn to adjust your expectations, not as a compromise, but as a way to protect your heart from unnecessary wounds. When you stop expecting others to behave like you don't become indifferent. You become free. And inner freedom is the greatest gift a Stoic can ever give themselves. Habit 6. Master your body to master your mind. Most of us think emotions begin in the mind. A negative thought, a painful memory, a flawed assumption. But the truth is, emotions don't start with logic. They start with the body. You don't realize you're angry until your shoulders tense, your jaw clenches, your breathing turns short and fast. You don't know you're anxious until your stomach tightens, your chest feels heavy, your hands begin to tremble. The body always speaks first, and if you don't listen, it will take control of your entire mind. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus once taught, "The first step towards self-mastery is to control what others can see, your posture, your eyes, your voice. The second is to control what they cannot, your thoughts, your inner reactions." In other words, if you want to master your mind, you must first master your body language, the most visible sign of your inner state, and the one thing you can shift immediately. Think back to a time you walked into a tense meeting, an interview, or a heated argument. Didn't your body instantly switch to fight mode? Heart racing, eyes wide, neck stiff, fists clenched. And in that state, no thought is clear. No word comes gently. Because when your body believes it's under threat, your brain will act like it's under attack, even if your life isn't actually in danger at all. That's why the Stoics didn't just train their minds. They trained their bodies. They practiced softness in their facial expressions, calm in their tone of voice, steadiness in their stance, not to impress anyone, but to send a signal of safety to the brain. When you breathe deeply, relax your shoulders, gently rotate your neck. You're delivering a message to yourself. Everything is okay. There's no need to react. I am in control. That's why this practice matters so much. Before you say anything, before you react, before you decide, run this simple sequence. Take a deep breath. Hold it for a few seconds. Exhale slowly. Relax your shoulders. Roll your neck gently. Small gestures, big impact. You're not just calming your body, you're resetting your entire emotional system. Mastering your body is the foundation of mastering yourself, because the body is the first gateway emotion passes through. And if you don't guard that gate, every emotion can storm in. But if you gain control over even the smallest expressions, you're building your first fortress, the one that protects your mind. And that is the Stoic way of living. It may begin with your posture, but it ends with lasting peace. Habit 7. Stay away from what throws you off balance. There are places you walk into with a smile, but within minutes you find yourself falling silent. No one's shouting, no one's insulting you. There's no obvious conflict. On the surface, everything seems normal, but inside something tightens. You feel uncomfortable being yourself. You censor your words, avoid certain glances, act out a version of yourself that doesn't feel true. And when you finally leave, you feel drained, without even knowing why. Not because they hate you, but because the energy in that space doesn't nourish you. Some environments don't destroy you with a single blow. They erode you little by little. A group of friends that judges more than they share. A workplace where silent competition smothers kindness. A relationship where you constantly have to explain yourself just to be accepted. These are the places that train you to shrink, to endure, to pretend you're fine. But a Stoic doesn't live like that. They don't stay in places where the soul can't breathe, just to avoid being seen as weak. Epictetus once said, "If something weakens your soul, walk away from it, not to escape, but to protect the most honest and powerful part of yourself. Because if you stay too long in a place that keeps making you small, You'll start to believe that small is all you are. You'll lose touch with your own boundaries, your self-worth, your emotional freedom, and one day, you'll look in the mirror and not recognize who's looking back. The Stoic doesn't stay out of false obligation. They draw boundaries, not out of hate for others, but out of respect for themselves. They know this truth. Not every place is meant for your soul to bloom. Some places only teach you how to survive, but you weren't born just to survive. Today's practice is this. Identify one toxic loop that's making you shrink. It might be a relationship, a group chat, a workplace, or a draining habit. Once you've seen it, set a boundary. It could be a one-day break. It could be reduced contact. It could be a permanent goodbye. No announcement needed. No blame required. Just quietly choose what feeds you. You don't have to endure to prove you're strong. You're allowed to choose balance again, because peace doesn't come from how long you hold out in the wrong place. It comes from having the clarity to leave before you lose yourself. Habit 8, practice compassion, the Stoic way. You greet someone with a smile, but they respond with a cold stare. You show concern, they answer curtly. You try to keep things peaceful, but every interaction leaves you feeling like an outsider. That familiar feeling creeps in, and you start to wonder, did I do something wrong? Or worse, are they purposely being disrespectful? And like instinct, you react with anger, sadness, withdrawal, or even the urge to strike back, to give them what they deserve. But a Stoic wouldn't do that, because they understand something deeper. People aren't reacting to you. They're reacting to the world they've lived through. Each person is a walking vessel of emotion, carrying an invisible backpack, filled with old wounds, quiet fears, distorted beliefs, and unhealed scars. Some carry betrayal from childhood. Some are silently collapsing under pressure they've never voiced. Some were never listened to long enough to learn how to speak gently. And when they meet you, they might act wrong, but that doesn't mean you are the one to blame. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor of calm, used to remind himself each morning, "Today I will meet people who are rude, selfish, envious, ignorant, but I won't be surprised. They act only as their nature leads them." This wasn't bitterness. It was the antidote to misplaced expectations. Because when you stop expecting people to be perfect, you begin to protect your own peace. Stoic compassion is not blind sympathy. It's the ability to not take things personally. It's seeing a difficult person not as the enemy, but as someone carrying more weight than they know how to hold. They're not rude because of you. They're rude because they're breaking somewhere you can't see. And here's a simple exercise you can try. The next time someone is cold, sharp, or unpleasant, instead of reacting right away, write down 3 invisible reasons they might be acting that way. Maybe they didn't sleep last night. Maybe something at home is weighing them down. Maybe they've never been taught how to manage emotion with grace. This isn't to excuse them. It's to free you. Because when the mind opens, the heart doesn't need to build a wall. A Stoic doesn't let others dictate their emotional state. They choose to see beyond behavior, to the flawed, limited human being behind it, and still hold on to their own calm. Compassion doesn't make you weak, it makes you free. Because when you're no longer pulled into someone else's storm, you finally have control over your own weather. And that is the highest form of inner strength. Habit 9. Simplify. Live with what truly matters. There are days when you're running nonstop from morning to night, busy without a break, your mind stretched tight like a wire. But when the night comes, you look back and realize you can't name a single thing of real value that you actually did. Everything felt urgent, must reply now, can't be delayed. Yet somehow when it's all done, all you feel is an empty exhaustion closing in. Not because you're lazy, but because you poured your energy into things that didn't matter. Seneca, one of the deepest minds of Stoic philosophy, once said, "It's not that we have too little time, it's that we waste much of it on things that don't matter." And that's the sickness of our time. Distraction disguised as busyness. You get pulled into pointless calls, dragged into meaningless arguments, stuck in loops of replying to messages, notifications, and deadlines that weren't even yours. Each one is small, not enough to drain you at once, but together they wear away at you like 1,000 tiny cuts, slowly stripping away your inner life. The Stoic doesn't let their life be fragmented by the temporary. They know happiness doesn't come from how much you do, but from the depth of your focus. Do less, but do it right. Speak less, but speak truthfully. Socialize less, but connect meaningfully. They live as if every unit of energy is sacred, and they refuse to give it to anything that doesn't leave a lasting mark. And that's how you take back control of your time and your mind. Start with one question. Before every reaction, every decision, every word. Will this still matter in 5 days? What about 5 years? If the answer is no, don't give it another second. A mean comment online, will you even remember it in 5 days? Someone cutting you off in public? Will it change anything in 5 years? A sharp email at 10 p.m. Is it worth losing your sleep over? The Stoic knows how to tune out the noise, to hear the real call from within. And to do that, they cut back. They trim the clutter, break the reflex to react, let go of the need to always be right, and most of all, they drop the addiction to being constantly busy. Living simply doesn't mean living with less. It means keeping only what nourishes you. When you no longer let every little thing tear your mind apart, you begin to see peace doesn't come from how much you accomplish. It comes from what you choose to do and what you choose to let go. Habit 10. Practice letting go of negative emotions. There are things you've tried your hardest to hold on to, a relationship that's falling apart, a job you no longer love, an apology that never came, an image of yourself you keep clinging to, just to prove to the world that you're okay. But the more you hold on, the more drained you feel. The more you try to control, the less freedom you have. Because you're investing energy into something that no longer belongs to you, or maybe never did. This is one of the greatest paradoxes of emotion. The thing we grip the tightest is often the very thing that's hurting us the most. We hold on, not because it's right for us anymore, but because we fear the feeling of loss. We don't refuse to let go because we still love. We refuse because we don't know who will be without it. And in doing so, we make ourselves the victims of our own stubbornness. We call it sacrifice, but really we're just abandoning ourselves. The Stoics don't tell us to be indifferent, emotionless, or to deny our pain. They teach us to face reality with awareness, not to run from the hurt, but not to worship it either, not to reject emotions, but not to let them lead the way. They believe pain has a right to exist, but it doesn't have the right to stay forever unless you allow it. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer not because of what happens, but because of our refusal to let go of what no longer is." And that's the truth. We cling to someone's silence and turn it into a story about our worth. We hold on to someone's departure and convince ourselves it means we weren't enough. But the truth is this: no one and nothing can define you except you. So the next time you feel the urge to hold on to something heavy, a memory, a person, a negative emotion, pause, take a deep breath, and say to yourself, "This does not define me. I choose to let it go." That sentence isn't just a declaration. It's the action that cuts the invisible chain tying you to the past or to pain that no longer serves you. Letting go is not giving up. It's release. It's the moment you acknowledge that you've done enough, tried enough, and the best thing now is to loosen your grip. Not because you don't care, but because you're finally choosing to care for yourself more. Letting go isn't a one-time act. It's a daily practice. It's watching your emotions, reminding yourself again and again. Peace doesn't come when everything goes your way. Peace comes when you stop demanding that it must. And when you let go at the right moment, you lose nothing. You simply return to the world what was never truly yours to begin with. Final chapter. Choose peace. Choose the Stoic way. If you're still here, if you've walked through every sentence, every emotional shift, every lesson distilled from Stoic philosophy, then I believe this: you've already begun the journey of mastering yourself. Not with a loud declaration, not with some emotional revolution, but with a quiet nod to yourself. I can live differently. I deserve a steadier inner life. The 10 habits you just explored, they're not some magical solution. There is no key that unlocks eternal peace. But each habit is a small brick in a solid foundation. Each small action, repeated often enough, begins to shift your entire inner world. You start to breathe before you react. You learn to observe without absorbing. You choose intentional silence over pointless arguments. You slowly let go of what no longer fits and hold on to what truly matters. That's not theory. That's strength. The world out there won't suddenly become softer just because you study Stoicism. There will still be careless people, frustrating situations, and unexpected loss. But what changes is how you remain grounded in the middle of it all. You're no longer a leaf blown by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, unshaken by the temporary. And you know what? In a world chasing noise, the one who learns how to be still is the one with real power. In a society that glorifies fast reactions, the one who stops to breathe is leading a quiet revolution, a revolution that starts within. So if you feel like something in you was just touched, a quiet awakening, a rare moment of stillness, don't let it fade like just an you're no longer a leaf blown by the wind. You are the tree, rooted, unshaken by the temporary. And you know what? In a world chasing noise, the one who learns how to be still is the one with real power. In a society that glorifies fast reactions, the one who stops to breathe is leading a quiet revolution, a revolution that starts within. So if you feel like something in you was just touched, a quiet awakening, a rare moment of stillness, don't let it fade like just another video on the internet. Mark this moment right here by leaving a comment below. I choose peace. I am stoic. Not to prove anything, but to remind yourself that something inside you has just awakened. And if you know someone out there who's struggling, overwhelmed, or hurting, share this video with them. Because maybe, just maybe, this could be the rope that pulls them out of a heavy day. Thank you for staying until the end. Thank you for giving yourself the chance to return to the strongest, clearest part of who you are. The Stoic path doesn't require you to change the world, only to master the world within you, and sometimes that alone is enough.